Welby is expecting a new arrival to her family, a little girl, and she's getting prepared. But these aren't parenting classes. Deborah's learning Russian. Deborah and her husband Mike are one of around 300 British couples each year who travel abroad to adopt. The most popular destination is China, which has a plentiful supply of baby girls. And then comes Russia, prized for its children with North European features.
We're going out to Russia to look for a little girl, and if I can show you, because Russia's huge, we're going to fly into Moscow and then take a train to Perm. But in fact, there's Perm there. It's on the Urals, which cut Russia, and they're regarded as separating European Russia from Asian Russia or Siberia. So we are quite close to Siberia.
From Surrey to Siberia. Perm, 800 miles east of Moscow. In the old communist times, this was a closed city because of its weapons factories. No foreigners were allowed here, but now they're positively welcome to come and visit orphanages like this one.
This is the canteen. They're having their break time snack now. Let's go in and see.
In this remote city alone, there are more than 1,000 abandoned children. This orphanage is home to mostly older boys and girls. But foreigners usually aren't interested in adopting teenagers. Very few of these children are likely ever to find a family to call their own.
Come on over. Don't be scared.
Even this boy at 7 is probably too old to be wanted.
What's your name?
Dima.
What year are you in at school?
I'm in the first year.
Most people prefer to adopt babies. The younger they are, the less scarred they are by life in an institution. So these are the lost children of Russia. As likely as not, born to families where violence, abuse and neglect were the norm. They are uncherished and unloved, and unless they are very lucky, they'll be consigned to grow up as wards of the state. Deborah wants to come to Perm to find a child from one of these orphanages, but she's going to have to make some very hard choices. Adopting overseas isn't for the faint-hearted.
People always say to me, "Aren't you excited?" And I think, well, I am, but it is a daunting country. I know what I've got to go through. I know I've got to go out to Russia, meet a child I hardly know, make a decision, then go through the Russian courts, bring her home. So it's more daunting than just falling pregnant, that's for sure.
In the back, Sam.
Deborah already has a birth son, Sam.
Here you go. Come on.
We started this because we both felt the same about adoption. We both wanted to give a child a home. We both wanted to try and make the world a better place.
Are you belted in, Sam? Speak to me, Sam.
Yes, Mum.
Good. So I've been trying to tell Sam and explain to Sam that she'll come from an orphanage, and there's actually a little girl, isn't there, Sam, from the rescuers who's from an orphanage. Her name's Penny, isn't she? Do you remember, Sam?
Yeah.
And I think it's been quite difficult for him to understand that she's not going to be from me. You got some favourite names though, Sam, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Natasha,
You like Emily, you like
Anastasia.
Anastasia. Which is handy because they're both Russian. They're Sasha and Anastasia.
But choosing a name is the easy part. Dealing with bureaucracies, both home and abroad, is a lot more challenging. In Britain today, there are around 4,000 children needing families, and about the same number of people on the adoption waiting list. But couples over 40 who want babies are likely to be disappointed, because babies tend to be placed with younger families. So looking abroad is another option.
Oh yeah?
Right, so it's going to be pizza, is it?
I've got the oven on actually.
Good. Good.
Deborah and Mike have already been approved for adoption by their social services. The vetting process cost them over £2,000 and took 2.5 years to complete.
Right, this is done now. Good, Sam?
What do you think she'll look like?
Blonde hair.
You think so?
I don't think so, Sam.
Then I have blue eyes.
She should have blonde hair and blue eyes. I have no picture.
No, I don't have a picture either.
Deliberately not so.
You know, often they come home and it's a huge shock. You know, hearing English when you're used to Russian, smells of the orphanage, the smells here will be completely different. So I think she'll be in shock.
It's been hard to get this far, but it's going to get a lot more stressful when they finally arrive in Russia. Deborah and Mike are following in the footsteps of another family from upstate New York.
That little girl was from Bulgaria too. I don't know what orphanage she was from. She might have been. A lot of them were from Burgos.
Elizabeth and Dan Case also looked to the orphanages of Perm to find their child.
I wonder if she's Catholic. In my heart, I wanted a blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid. The dream, you know? A little white baby. Everybody wants a white baby.
Here's some of their state filings.
I didn't think we met the rough qualifications for China. I didn't even look at Korea at the time. Domestic, I didn't even look into. It was just Russia. I thought I knew the culture, and we get a white baby out of it, and a male. And that's why I chose Russia. And I hate to tell you that, but that's the truth.
Like most people wanting to adopt overseas, they started their quest by going to the internet. There are hundreds of sites where you can see pictures of children from all over the world desperate for love and a home. These listings are advertised by adoption agencies who can help you find your child for a fee. Anything between £6,000 and £30,000. Elizabeth and Dan signed up with an agency, and it wasn't long before a package arrived all the way from Russia, enclosing a tape of the little boy they hoped would soon be their son.
We sat down and watched the video and thought about it and liked what we saw.
We saw a beautiful little baby boy. I'm sorry. I saw a beautiful little baby boy. With beautiful eyes. And he looked healthy. And they were talking to him in Russian, and he was moving around a little bit. He just looked like a little baby that needed a mom and a dad, and we just wanted to go over right away and grab him.
And that's what they decided to do. Elizabeth and Dan travelled to Perm as quickly as they could, and were soon on their way to the orphanage to meet their new son, Kirill, or Cyril, as they were going to call him.
It was just a wonderful, positive feeling. I was going to be a mother. We were going to bring home a beautiful baby boy, and he was going to grow up and be a hockey player, you know? Or maybe a ballerina, I don't know.
We were happy. We were relieved that this was a long process that was finally ending. We had shown the video to our parents, both of them. It was, you know, the whole family was very happy, looking forward to the first grandchild.
You know, you're getting a baby. My God, that's a wonderful thing. Что? Look. Посмотри. Посмотри.
We got the mini camera working. This is the standard American parenting accessory these days, is a camcorder. And we were filming everything we could.
On camera?
We wanted Cyril to have something to remember when he got older. Hi, Cyril, whoever, if you're watching this, your 18th birthday, have a good, and let's all hope we're laughing.
Well, we don't look related. We don't look related. The baby was a little bit active that day. He was grabbing for the video camera, and he just seemed okay. Just looking around, you know, it's just different for him too to be held by different people.
A little thin, but you know, we thought that we could take care of that relatively quickly.
Yes. It was very joyful, and that was really a moving moment in my life. It really was. I never had that again. So, and it was just you know, a human moment, I should say. So, you know, and I just hope the baby was as happy as I was.
But Cyril had medical problems, which neither of them fully appreciated. After all the form filling and vetting, Deborah and Mike finally had all the paperwork in place and were at last heading for the Russian steppes. They took a camera with them to record their journey. The total cost of their adoption is around £8,500.
This is us, having just got on the Trans-Siberian Express. So, how's the soup?
It's quite hot. Well, there we were on a train going from Moscow to Perm, and you think to yourself, how did we get here? You sort of get sucked into the process, and then sooner or later you find yourself in Russia.
Crossing the big river, which is called, Deborah?
I think the Kama.
The Kama. And this is coming into Perm.
The Russian authorities had already selected a baby girl for Mike and Deborah to meet. Now the waiting was almost over.
Well, we're off to see the Ministry of Education. We think the appointment will be about 12:30, which may give us time today to go and see the little girl, but we don't know.
I think I started to get quite nerve-wracked then. The enormity sort of suddenly descended on us, and I started getting very, very nerve-wracked and very tearful. I think what happens is you sort of arrange all your trip, and you know, you're looking forward to it, and then all of a sudden it comes to a crunch. And it was all a bit too much for me, I think, at that point, and Mike told me to pull myself together. I did feel sick, so that's obviously the enormity was hitting me then.
I think we're very close now.
And it didn't get much better that day, because we then travelled out to see her. She's very close to the city centre, that orphanage.
Is this it?
Yes.
We are.
And from the moment we went through the door, the orphanage did smell. But I expected all that.
As soon as they arrived, the child, called Xenia, was handed to them. But all was not well.
She can't look up.
She can't open
But in full. But that will change, won't it? Can you mend that? We were met by the orphanage director. And he sat down, he started telling us about the little girl, and he basically said, she's too ill, I don't recommend her for adoption, she's too ill. And I said, well, what does she have? And he told me. She was premature, she had a hole in the heart, she had fetal alcohol problems, which I could tell. She also had a problem with her eyes, where she couldn't lift them. And I wondered what gastroenteritis meant. I wondered if it was hepatitis, and sure enough, it was hepatitis C. It didn't feel right, that's all. It just didn't feel right.
It was a painful decision, but they decided they couldn't adopt Xenia.
It shocked us, really. It shocked us. All those problems and abandoned by our mum. At a time when she needs our mum, she hasn't got our mum. The experience is shocking. You go out, you meet a very sick little girl. You don't know what then to think, and then we walk around Perm, Mike and I, wondering whether we should do it at all, because if all the referrals are going to have contagious diseases, we can't bring a child home because we've got a very well little boy at home.
Being in Russia made them start to question the whole idea of adopting.
It was just I think the first time we'd seriously thought about it. You know, is it right what we're doing? That's how much the shock was, really.
Deborah and Mike had to decide whether to continue their search or quit Perm and head home early.
Is he on target for a Russian orphanage child? I mean, you know, he seems okay.
There were no such qualms for Elizabeth and Dan. They were so swept up in the emotion of having a child that even the doctor's diagnosis didn't seem too much of a problem.
I have no clue what that is. I just thought it was a term.
Well, that implies some affection to the nervous system.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
After the birth, after the delivery.
Possibly.
And
okay. Okay, infection, central nervous system after delivery. All right.
But the doctor's conversations with the other staff left Elizabeth feeling a little nervous.
There would just seem too much being said in the background, especially when the medical is being reviewed. They're saying more than was being translated or more than we were aware of at the time.
Cyril had a fever when Elizabeth and Dan first met him, but after a couple of days he was well enough to leave the orphanage.
We took him back to the hotel, and we were relieved. Now we can start parenting.
Yeah.
Cyril, you're healthy now, and guess what? You get to go start your new life.
Not 100% yet. He's warm.
They had to stay on in Perm for a few more days to finalize the adoption in the Russian courts. It was a chance for the new family to bond.
This is Cyril's first feeding at home. Or with mommy and daddy. We decided to feed him because I figured, the baby would be hungry, and he just ate very slowly. which I found out later is very unusual. Usually these babies will just devour anything they can. And that baby probably drank about half a bottle in a half hour.
Did he feel like he did?
We're going to have diarrhea or something on this kid. 'Cause we got plastic pants and stuff. After we got done feeding him, I said, hey, you know what? We better go change this baby. Hey, what do you want? He's a human being.
Yeah.
We laid him on the floor in the bathroom on a towel. And then we took his clothes off. And then we took his diaper off. That was pure hell. I don't know how anybody could have let a child suffer with this. It was an infection on his rear end.
It was diaper rash run amok. This is Elizabeth after our second exhausting change and treatment of the killer diaper rash from hell. This was an indisputable sign this child had been neglected in the orphanage.
You would have arrested us in this country if you had seen that on a baby.
That's why we took a picture.
That's why we took a picture. Because I didn't think anybody would believe us. That night, that baby didn't sleep. He was in a crib next to our bed and he didn't sleep. He just laid there. And I just noticed the next morning how gaunt he was looking. And I thought, oh my God, we gotta feed this kid some more. There's a wee man who looks like pure, unadulterated terror. The baby would not eat very much formula today because he's in a mood. I think he's teething. So Daniel is trying to feed the wee man. And we're trying to feed him mashed bananas. And he loves the camera, as you can possibly tell, because he keeps looking at it. He knows he's been on camera since a very young age.
Okay, is this what you want, boy?
Let's see what he does. All of a sudden, his eyes weren't dilating. I mean, blue eyes, you can notice the dilation in blue eyes. What's his mouth all wet for? Did you wipe it? I said, Dan, something's not right with the baby. And he's like, what are you talking about? Is he choking? I said, no, something's not right with the baby. And so we put him on the couch and his eyes were fixed. His pupils were just wide. I said, oh my God.
I think I did.
Zero. And he just picked up and he went his head a little back and he just breathed. His last breath. I knew right then the baby died. I mean, I just wasn't expecting it. I said, oh my God, this baby's dead. And I went upstairs and I got a little yellow outfit, a little sleeping outfit for him that my mother had given him, and I dressed him in that. I brought it downstairs and I dressed him in that. And I thought, oh, you poor soul, you can't go to the morgue dressed in a t-shirt and a diaper. And we put it on him in the hotel lobby. It was just terrible.
Something in you changes forever when you've been in a room where somebody has died unexpectedly, and then especially when it's an infant.
Yeah.
And your own son.
Yeah, yeah. That changed us, yeah, definitely.
Elizabeth and Dan's experience is very rare, but most children in Russian orphanages are affected in some way or other by their early life. As every parent knows, babies thrive on attention and stimulation, so the longer these children live in institutions, the more they'll need to catch up. But if they're given the chance of a new life, they can flourish. Deborah and Mike, the couple from Surrey who came to Perm and who decided not to adopt the first child they met, were kicking their heels before their flight home. Then they heard about another baby girl, orphaned because her parents couldn't afford to care for her.
You think it's more of the same tomorrow, and you worry that you won't bond tomorrow with another referral. Then you've got to come back again, and you think to yourself, well, is it me?
That's the building.
It was like a little nursery. It was lovely. There was actually no smell in it at all. So it was, you couldn't have picked something more different.
Hello. Oh, just woken up. And how do we say her name? Iraida.
We knew straight away. You look for some sort of normal responses. You know, you look for how you felt when you held Sam, and you look for what should be like a normal response, and it was they were all there.
Oh.
She looked at me hard for ages and ages, working me out, and I thought, well, that's good, because I didn't get that with the other little one. That's what babies do. You're trying to work you out, and there's evidence there's lots going on behind. It's lovely when they grip your hand. She gripped my hand, and then that was it.
Yeah.
She looks great. She looks well. She looks good.
Me.
She looks well, healthy. She was happy with me and with you as well. Too much, just in case she starts crying again. I think we both made our mind up at the same time. It didn't just restore my faith in the whole process. I remembered exactly what was good about why we're doing it. Never mind.
That's the way I would feel too, darling.
You realise why you did it, and it gives you a very different feeling compared to pregnancy, because you are giving that child that has got an uncertain future a more certain future, and that's what was good. I didn't quite expect that to happen, but I guess that does happen. That's not going very good for her.
Deborah knows that, like many orphanage children, little Iraida has some medical problems.
There are things wrong with her. She hasn't got a heart condition anymore, but she's got hip dysplasia. But the doctor in charge of her care said that if she got into a family, then there's no reason why she shouldn't fly. Can we take her today?
But they can't. Not yet. Mike and Deborah must return to Britain without her, whilst the final adoption paperwork is completed. They hope to return to Perm in about 3 months to collect her.
She's actually falling asleep.
For little Iraida, there is a chance of a new life. But hundreds of other orphans in Perm are not so fortunate. And across Russia, there are about 180,000 abandoned children living in institutions. In the mid-90s, Cambodia, in Southeast Asia, opened its doors to foreigners seeking children to adopt. Many Cambodians live in dire poverty as their country struggles to recover from war and genocide. And many children are left to fend for themselves. Cambodia also appealed to foreigners because its adoption process is less bureaucratic than many other countries.
Show me how you disappear through it.
The desperate plight of Cambodia's poor has touched the hearts of a family in the West Country.
Really steep, isn't it?
Dr. Simon Kapp and his wife Jan want to give the chance of a new life to a Cambodian orphan. They already have a birth son, Isaac, but would like to adopt a baby sister.
Gonna beat you to the top, Isaac.
We've just come quite wrapped up in the whole idea of the plight of Cambodia and the children there who require homes.
Yeah, we just sort of become really fond of the country, I guess, in the process, and then the people there, and we just now feel that's what we really want to do.
Simon is a family doctor. Jan's a music teacher. They're willing to consider adopting a child who's HIV positive. They sailed through the social services vetting.
We have completed a home study here in Britain, been approved as adopters for Cambodia, and I guess about 10 months ago we thought that we were well on our way. Here, honey, I'll show you something.
But then suddenly all that was to change for them, and 22 other British families also planning to adopt from Cambodia.
Now, can you see our house?
And the reason? Something that happened on the other side of the world. The story takes us from Somerset to Seattle. Here, American federal agents had been investigating the baby business in Cambodia.
Let me show you my office.
It was codenamed Operation Broken Hearts. In charge was undercover special agent Richard Cross.
Operation Broken Hearts was named because I believe that there were going to be a lot of broken hearts in this case, meaning present, past, and future.
Special Agent Cross went to Cambodia and discovered that a lucrative market was opening up for adoptions to the West. And like all markets, it worked on the laws of supply and demand.
Adopted parents like to adopt young children who haven't had developmental problems yet or haven't bonded with their family members. So there was a drive for young babies to be adopted out. The problem was these babies didn't exist, but the market demanded them, so profiteers went out and actually obtained these babies for this market. At the very beginning, we had people in villages, baby recruiters. They were the individuals who actually found Cambodian mothers and fathers who wanted their children to be adopted and go to the United States or Europe. Money or something else would be exchanged for the child. Typically it was $20 to $50 in cash plus a 50-kilo bag of rice would be given to the parents to give up the child right then. A lot of these parents had very little and needed to feed the rest of their families, so they took up this. And to me and you, $20 or $50 doesn't sound like much, but to a Cambodian, that's quite a bit when the average income is around $250 a year.
But much larger sums were being paid to the middlemen.
This is 29 children for a total payment of over $50,000.
The trail led to an American woman who had made it her life's mission to save destitute Cambodian children. The suspect was called Lauren Galindo.
Hi, Mr. Lauren.
Lauren Galindo had been on the ground in Cambodia for over 10 years, arranging the adoptions of around 800 children to Western families. Among her clients, Angelina Jolie. She adopted her son Maddox with Galindo's help. Here, Galindo is at the handover of some orphans bound for a new life in the West. Lauren Galindo has many supporters who insist that she was rescuing children at risk, but that didn't wash with the feds, who were on her tail.
We came back to the United States and contacted the United States Attorney's Office in order to initiate a criminal investigation concerning the Galindo organization.
Special Agent Cross then set out to track down some of Galindo's former clients. First stop, Arizona, where he met a couple who had an extraordinary tale to tell.
I happened upon a friend of mine and was telling her that I felt terrible because we couldn't adopt a second child right now. And she said, oh, well, I'm in the process of adopting from Cambodia. And I have to admit, I said, where? And I had no knowledge of Cambodia. And she told me it's an Asian country and it's next to Vietnam and near Thailand, and they have a very fast-moving adoption program. And we talked it over, yeah, and just said, well, that sounds great.
Kathy and Paul Last had already adopted a daughter from China and wanted a second child. Cambodia, with its easy and fast adoption program, seemed the perfect place to look, so they contacted the agency recommended to them.
Oh my goodness, having a second child was so exciting for us, and we both agreed that it sounded wonderful, almost too good to be true. The time frame was so short.
The agency quickly matched them to an orphan in need of a new home.
When we saw her picture, we knew that we had made the right choice. She looked so cute and so solemn, and we just knew she needed us and we needed her, and she was going to be the missing link in our family.
Just a few weeks after receiving the photograph, Kathy was in Cambodia, on her way to collecting their new daughter. The adoption was costing $10,500, about £6,000.
I remember my heart was pounding so fast and so hard, it felt like it was going to come right out of my chest. I couldn't believe it. I'd waited for this day, and my little girl was waiting at the end of this trip for us.
The facilitator who was arranging the adoption and who accompanied Kathy on the drive out to the orphanage was Lauren Galindo.
She turned briefly around, introduced herself, and that was it. This was a business lady, and she was treating me like a client. And although adoption is part business, it's also more than a business. I recognized that we were approaching the orphanage because I had one photograph of my daughter outside, and I recognized the color of the paint. There was a low wall leading to the orphanage, and my heart just started pounding. I told my friend, this is it, we're here, I recognize it. And the car pulled to a stop in front of a little building, and on the steps was a woman and a little girl. Her hair was kind of wild, and she just looked so incredibly fragile and so sweet. And I knelt down in front of her and I said, I'm your mama. Then I picked her up and she was limp. She was just so light. She was light as a feather.
It was at that moment that Kathy's interpreter told her something she couldn't believe.
I'm holding my new daughter and I'm so filled with emotion and so joyful, and my driver tells me this is her mother. At first I didn't know what he meant, or it didn't register with me, and he repeated it. This lady is your daughter's mother. And I said, oh, no, she doesn't have a mother, because her paperwork said that she had been abandoned and parents were unknown. Well, he repeated it again, and I knew what he was saying, and I remember feeling so confused. How could this be happening? I thought I was rescuing a little girl, giving her a family that she didn't have, not taking her away from a family she already had. took Lauren aside and I said, Lauren, this girl has a family. What am I supposed to do? Well, Lauren said, you're supposed to adopt her. You've already signed all the papers. I said, yes, but I was told she was abandoned. That's what my paperwork said. Well, she said, if you don't take her, something terrible could happen. Well, I'd heard about the sex trade. I'd heard about don't let families lose face. And she told me, take her back to your hotel. We can sort it out later. I had to just stand alone and weep for a minute. Lauren was no help to me at all. Her birth mother was so sad. There was such just tremendous sadness in her face. And I asked the translator, ask her, why is she giving this child to me? Why does she want to give me this child? I had to have an answer. The driver asked her. His reply to me was, she just wants her daughter to have enough to eat. And I knew the mother was telling me the truth, and I knew that she wanted me to truly feed and care for this child, because I don't think she could.
Back in the capital, Phnom Penh, Kathy had time to spend with her new daughter before going to the American Embassy to fill out the immigration forms. Lauren Galindo went with her.
There was a question on the paperwork. It had something to do with, do you know the location of any living relative of this child? I said, Lauren, what do I do here? She said, will you mark that no? I said, oh, I met them yesterday. I know where they are. They're at Kampong Spoo. She said, very, very cold. No, you don't. For all you know, they've left and they've gone to some other city by now. I said, I really think they're at Kampong Spoo. She said, just mark it no. I said, I can't. I'm under oath. I'm supposed to mark this correctly and truthfully. She said, oh, just give me the clipboard. She took her pen and made a big check mark in the word no. And all of my check marks were neat little X's in the boxes, and then you see this one that's got a big old check mark on the box that says, do you know of any living relatives? And she said, there, now you didn't lie. She was very cold.
Galindo admits she did falsify paperwork, but says it was only to help unwanted children escape a dangerous country. She also insists American officials turned a blind eye. But it turned out that the little girl Kathy acquired had never lived in an orphanage. She lived at home with her brothers and sisters, mother and stepfather. All her paperwork had been falsified, even her name and her birthday. Kathy hadn't adopted an orphan at all.
We're leaving downtown Seattle right now, and we're heading towards Mercer Island, which is a private, exclusive community outside.
Special Agent Richard Cross went looking for Lauren Galindo. She was connected to an adoption agency right on his patch.
Seattle International Adoption is located over on the hills over that way, looking out over this beautiful waterfront.
But Lauren Galindo wasn't there. She lived somewhere altogether more exotic. In the middle of the Pacific, on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. Which is